now, that kind of setup. I think that's sort of what we're picturing. So most of the time you're wearing it. So I guess if you're wandering around naked, you wouldn't have it, but there's probably not really going to be any occasion that'll be happening in the game. So by default, most of the time you would have your mobiGlas, unless you know we could think of some good reason to take it away for you for whatever reason.
Delta Mike would like to ask if ships will have a logbook.
A logbook.
Yeah. Like a logbook, as in like landed on this planet, took off, took on so many goods, sold this, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think that sort of thing.
It's not in the design currently, so it's not necessarily something that's particularly hard. It's really just a matter of like, I think that falls in the case of a feature that like down the road we may implement, but it's not top of the priority of what we want to implement right now.
For multi-monitors, will people be able to customize their HUD, kick some of the data out to their monitors on the side, that sort of thing? That fall into the same as the second.
We've actually already been doing some coding to handle multiple monitors, right? So
yeah, the HUD is split up into a number of parts so that we can stretch it out to make sure it fits on whatever aspect ratio you might have, and that'll definitely give you some extra screen real estate to show a little more information.
Yeah, so I mean, not so much of like saying this part's on this monitor and this part's on this monitor, for the reasons that Zane talked about, but definitely it will handle things like Eyefinity or wider displays. So it sort of dynamically adjusts to your aspect ratio or a larger screen area or a larger field of view.
Can your HUD suffer
damage during combat?
Yeah,
actually, there was a little clip of some of the damage state in that we've designed in the video that preceded this. There'll definitely be damage reflected in the HUD. The HUD may reflect damaged individual components as well.
Right, and then you got, and since we have all these systems that interact with each other, if a system goes down, it won't be feeding the display on the HUD, and the HUD just won't be connected or seeing the weapons or whatever.
You'll lose elements of your HUD if you, because all the systems are real and can take damage. You might lose your radar or your targeting computer.
Right, and they're all dynamic. They all talk to each other via an event system. So yeah, there's nothing. It's basically a messaging system inside the ship that talks, and so the items talk to the displays and tell them information. And if the item goes away, then they won't be getting information to display. That'll go away. So we kind of coded a whole system for the displays and the ship systems that way to make it. To like, hopefully it will feel like a real living, breathing vehicle. And when things go down, they go down on your display. We don't have to really do any special coding. It falls out of the system.
Right.
Can users turn off their HUDs, like in the end of Star Wars?
That should probably be something they can do.
Yeah. I mean, I have no problem. You definitely will be able to minimize stuff, but yeah, I guess if you want to, turn it off and use the Force, go ahead.
Take some pretty screenshots.
Be really good, though. Some confusion over what the HUD actually is. Is it projected on your helmet? Is it in the glass cockpit? What do you actually have to be wearing to see your HUD in your ship?
So the HUD specifically in the Hornet, because it will vary on ships, is a combination. So some of it is projected on your visor. Some of it will be projected in the space of your cockpit in front of you. So basically anything that would be specific to the orientation of your ship itself would probably be projected into the cockpit space, and stuff that's information that you would do. So like targeting information or whatever, looking around will probably be on your visor, but we don't have it working here. But in the prototype I had, like there was a pretty standard sort of play, like a horizon line setup. And that was actually projected in sort of the front projecting, which you can already see in the Hornet right now. You can see these sort of little devices to project, and I think right now there's sort of a translucent kind of plane sitting in front of you, and that's really where the spatial projection would be for the stuff that was fixed to the Hornet. And it would be a combination depending on what makes sense. It's kind of confusing if you have like a horizon line or a heading thing that like it needs to stay with the orientation of the ship, not with which way you're looking. But some stuff would naturally go with where you were looking, like targeting reticles or information for that. So the answer is a combination.
Okay. Guys, got some more HUD questions for us? Zane and Chris and Brennan? Wondering if we could talk about the command module on some of the larger ships. Will that be the same sort of HUD interface, or will that be something else?
Well, the same system.
Private, I'm not sure it's going to look necessarily the same. I mean, there's a differentiation between like the display and the input to the actions, but the way we're designing the system is that the HUD system itself is meant to be pretty modular. So you know we could have a specific look and functionality that you see in the Hornet that would be very different than what you'd see, say, in the Constellation or what you could see in the Idris Corvette. Although they'll be all using the same basic system. That's why we have the ability to drive this feature. In this seat, you're only doing weapons control. In this seat, you're flying it or whatever. You know, we probably would like, you know, in the bigger ship, the command and control, you would have some of the stuff you see now, but you'd also have like a big sort of floating, you know, hologram of like you could see situational sort of setup of all the different ships in the theater of operation that you're in, and maybe you can click on it and sort of say okay and direct this ship to attack that ship, and so it's sort of like a big holosphere. So not too dissimilar than what you would, you know, you've seen in, haven't seen Ender's Game, but I bet you they have something like that in Ender's Game. Prometheus has something pretty similar to it, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine the interfaces would be sort of specialized based on kind of what function you're actually doing in the ship. Like if you're a weapons commander, you know, whatever function you're doing, you have a specialized interface for that with the manufacturer language, visual language applied to it.
I'm wondering if space weather, you know, electromagnetic interference, nebula, that sort of thing will affect the HUD. Are we going to brown out, be disabled by certain types of space?
That's a good question. That's a cool idea to fill around.
Yes, the answer is yes. It's part of the design. So the display will get affected, could get interference, could go off altogether. Depends on where you are, what the environment would be. So there may be some nebulas you go into that you basically are running blind, essentially. Not too dissimilar than today's world. If you're in an aircraft, you get caught in an electrical storm.
Users wondering about a third-person HUD.
Yeah, there's not going to be.
You know, the only third-person HUD would be looking back at your guy and seeing some HUD being projected, like I said, in the Iron Man style. But that's not useful for you. There won't be. You can't go to a chase view and have all that extra peripheral vision and have all the same HUD information. I mean, that's kind of immersion breaking. So, you know, when we go to a chase view, you go to a view that would be like a chase planes view versus. So I don't know if that was someone that wanted to have the third-person HUD or not have a third-person HUD, but we won't have a third-person HUD in the, in the tradition of a, you know, kind of a more sort of arcadey shooter up setup.
Let's see. Any more HUD questions, folks? Will there be electronic warfare that specifically targets other users' HUDs? That's a good question.
There's definitely going to be electronic warfare. I mean, that's already designed in.
So there's the idea of EMP. There's your radar. We have a whole set of the radars themselves. There's multiple kinds of signatures you look for. You can look for heat. You can look for reflective signature, electromagnetic signature. And there will be different things that you can do to counter them or shield against them or protect them. How well you can track those depends on how quickly a missile can lock or all the above. So if you're running a stealth ship, you know, you may be almost impossible to target with a missile. You may have to take out with your guns and get on their tail. So that's all adds into the idea of a lot of sort of rock paper scissors give and take in the space combat.
I think they're imagining some kind of electronic pulse missile I fire, and it just knocks out your HUD for 30 seconds.
Yeah, 100%. That's basically like we already have them in our specs. So we have EMP mines. I think we have EMP missiles.
We have energy draining weapons and
energy
heat
generating
rejection
weapons. So we have stuff that would basically affect you. I mean, that's the beauty of having a procedural system. Like you could overload someone with too much heat, which could fry their systems. You could overload them with a big EMP pulse, bring down their electronics. All our stuff works in that, like if we take away power or we, do something like that, all the systems would just go out automatically.
Mhm.
That's how it would work.
Yeah,
So we probably have to
Yeah,
little like shutdown states or whatever animations. But
Available right now, so get them quickly.
Ready to crash the website again.
Yes, let's see if the website can stay up through this one.
Hey, we checked with.
I guess Ben did.
Yeah, I think Ben was on. So Ben, we weren't meant to say that
because
because
time the website crashed.
Well, we may have just crashed website again. So far, so good.
So where are we at with Dan on? Because I think we're coming up to that section, right? Right near the end.
Can I have the thumb drive?
So so basically I can't plug it into the live system, right?
Okay, well the addresses are sold out, so I guess we.
Oh, sold out again.
Well, they were sold out. They were sold out before you made the announcement, but.
Yeah, such a tease, Ben.
Yeah.
That's not very nice.
I blame Eric. No, there will be another 11 introduces later, not during the stream.
So watch for that if you really, really want one. Let's go back to HUD questions. Will the HUD tie into the organization system for organizing your squadron, interacting with your group members?
Well, definitely like.
HUD will tie in, and the displays will tie into the organization stuff, which is essentially how we're managing your friends and who you talk to. So, I guess we in the game look at the organization system as sort of channels, essentially. So, you can have your channel for this guild or this channel for this friends list or whatever, and that will all be accessible via the HUD, the display systems, when you're outside your ship, from your Mobi-Glass, and so on.
Let's see. HUD questions, folks. Let's see. Can we expect random failure of systems?
I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, things might wear out over time, but that's sort of reflected as that's sort of a damage failure if it's just worn out. I don't think random.
Yeah, I don't think we've got the idea that like you get. Well, I mean, we definitely have the red ring of death, right? So if you overheat your system, it'll take it down. But I don't think we have like a random dice roll, roll, and if you're, you go snake eyes, your ship's HUD goes down or anything.
There's players wondering about color blindness and HUDs.
Yeah, so that's one of the things I addressed in sort of like the color customization. Is that some people, there's a lot more people that are color efficient than you might think. The primary one is between the colors red and green, at least differentiating between those colors. So, and also some people might have trouble reading red elements on a black background. So the thing I talked about with the critical alert that's red, it's by default in red, but that's customizable. So you can assign a different color to it. But for the most part, like the HUD is actually like pretty uniform in color.
Wondering about customizable displays in the Hornet, what they can display on them.
So in the Hornet, like some of the displays, there's the physical displays in the Hornet, and they display information too. But the idea is that you can take information on those physical displays in the Hornet and project it onto your HUD. So things like some of the different displays will display different categories of information. So for example, like one category is your weapon systems and your ship systems. But you can actually take whatever is on those Hornet screens and have it mapped to your HUD, and then you can actually have tabs in your HUD that you can cycle through to pop out different information screens, which I think was shown in the preview. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm
It's
not
in the
sure.
preview, but that's definitely part of the design. You should be like you can set your this is the weapons display, this is the ship status display, and you should be able to pull them up and transfer them to your HUD and put the monitors away. That's kind of the idea. And that's generally the idea of all the ships. I think the Hornet's probably got the most displays in it because again it's a dedicated dogfighting military ship. Whereas something like say even the 300i or the Constellation is not quite the same, so it's more about okay, well, I'll put it up on my HUD or I'll put it down on my one display, but it's not so focused on having so many displays giving you so much information at one time, because it's really just a sort of matter of what roles you'll use it for.
Wondering if the HUD can
Be upgraded like a ship component.
So most definitely, that's part of the design right there. We're going to be able to upgrade it. So like,
Just general things like at the lowest level, like targeting computer, you can maybe only target one target at a time. You get the upgrade, you could have 2 or 3 or 4 targets, simultaneous targeting, simultaneous locking, and the same on the HUDs. Like so we're going to allow you to have upgrades on the HUDs that maybe give you more information or a different kind of information. So all our items, including sort of the internal ones like the avionics ones, all generally are designed to have multiple levels to them. So, maybe a more advanced one would allow a higher level of customization than the basic one would.
Question: Are you intending the HUD to make up for visibility issues in some of the ships, or is that something that'll be addressed in the future?
That's probably related to the Hornet canopy and the feeling like the struts of the canopy are too big. So we may do a little bit of work on... What's that?
There's the Freelancer has the thing in the middle. They have something about it.
And I'm just saying, if people go back to last year and they look at the hey, let's make this a big bubble canopy so you have better visibility, everyone wanted to lynch poor Jim Martin, who was the conceptual designer, and us for doing it. And so we changed it back to the concept art, and now there's massive threads bitching that there's no visibility. But I'm just saying, can never win in that situation. But on a dogfighting one, it's more important than say something like the Freelancer, which is less focused on dogfighting. But there's a dynamic look system that I talked about in the beginning of this live stream that we haven't shown yet. That's still it's part of this unified first look. But essentially, the idea behind it is that when you're in the cockpit, just like in real life, your focus is dynamically changing. So if I'm looking at something outside the cockpit, say I'm not looking like down in my close proximity, but outside, say, a ship I'm trying to trail, what happens is the field of view will narrow down and my focus will sort of basically be shifted in that direction. So essentially what will happen is, what right now, because we have a very wide field of view right now, because it's sort of basically trying to be wide so you can look down and see your legs in the cockpit and generally the cockpit and then look up. But if you're actually chasing a ship and focusing on them, you're just by human nature, you just generally tend to tunnel vision. And so we're going to dynamically do that. As you look around, depending on what you're focusing on, we're actually going to be casting a ray out from the eye and seeing what you're focusing on, and we're going to be changing the field of view. So if you're focusing and looking at something outside your cockpit will probably go more out of focus and your field of view will narrow. When you come back down to look inside your cockpit, it will be a wider field of view, and things outside will be out of focus, but things inside will be. And that's sort of a dynamic look system, and I think that will help with some of the visibility issues. Obviously, a HUD is there to give you sort of increased situational awareness, and obviously it uses part of that. And then again, like I said, there will be some ships that some work, like the Hornet canopy will probably do a bit of work on to reduce the size of the struts. But I think when it's all put together, it will all feel pretty awesome and pretty immersive.
Be patient, everybody. People are wondering if they can upgrade their HUD from one ship to another. So if they like the 300i HUD, can they port it over to the Hornet or vice versa?
That's a good question. We sort of we talked about making them ship specific. I mean, the other option would be HUDs could be, like manufacturer specific. There's, the equivalent of GE makes this HUD and Samsung makes this HUD kind of thing. So we haven't really decided that. So I don't know. I'm not sure you can take your Anvil Hornet HUD and plug it into the 300i, because there's some specific stuff for the Hornet HUD that is for the Hornet versus the 300i. But we may have some more sort of generic manufacturers that is maybe a more consistent interface across the ships. The system will definitely handle it. It's just a matter of because the HUD and the information display is all handled in vehicle items, and they completely they're not locked to the ship. So just the same way, like if you're in the hangar, you can move guns back and forth. Well, basically everything: thrusters, any avionics package, heat coolers, batteries, power plants. All of that are essentially items that will dynamically swap, and you can plug into different ships. Now, some ships won't accept a certain kind of item or whatever, but generally there's nothing in the system that is like hard coded to one specific ship. It's very data driven.
All right. Let's see. One user would like to know what your favorite ship is, Chris.
Well, it would probably be the Constellation. And I'm working very hard right now, actually, to get the instance physics working, which we have a prototype of, whereby you're flying the ship around, and all that works perfectly in its own physical world, but you're in another physical world, i.e. the global space, and that's all working. Then that's the awesome in the ship dogfighting, getting in the gunner's turret, fighting while someone else is flying it, while someone's trying to take you out in their Hornet or 300i or whatever. So I would say the Constellation's kind of my favorite, just because it gives you that promise. It's like an experience that I haven't seen at that level of fidelity in the game. And then I think probably my second favorite is the Hornet. I mean, I really like the Hornet. It feels solid and like a great sort of military dogfighter, and some of the stuff, some of the tweaks and upgrades we've done are really nice for it. And so I'm just looking forward to seeing all these things that we're sort of, I don't know, like 70-80% of the way there all come together. So like of all the fidelity and the touches, and have a full-on dogfight without going, oh, there's a graphical glitch here, or oh, there's a crash here, because my sense is it's just going to feel really like good and solid and fun.
There's someone who wants to know if the cheaper HUDs look.
I've advertised myself.
Probably not.
Let's see. Can the dynamic field of view be turned off?
We'll probably allow that to be turned off. I mean, it's just one of those things we won't force you to do it, but that'll be sort of the one that would be
Fall one.
Let's see. When are we going to hear more about the Origin 890? That's coming up.
Yeah.
I would say next year when we'll show you what it looks like. So we gotta save some stuff for next year. It's like we gotta pace ourselves here.
Yeah, you have to remember you're just unlocking these ships now, and now they go to design and then art, and you'll follow the process. You'll
See them as they're developed.
Bring Fan to talk about this.
Is there-
Oh, go on. You can ask that question. I was
I was
going
going to say that
I think it's what we were going to show a little bit of fun thing that we've got playing around. We use it internally for like our balancing and testing, and this is something that Eric hinted at that we're going to put in the hangar, not tomorrow, but hopefully by the end of the year, so people can have some fun. So I haven't actually. I can see this.
Sit by Brendan.
I think you'll be in the shot if you sit by Brendan. So we see it all upstairs, but we don't have a way of actually demoing it live because of the way we're set up here. So you're on the mic.
Yeah,
But this is, you just captured this from your machine upstairs, right?
Yes,
so we
just
thought
now.
this would be kind of fun. All right. So We're gonna play this. You're gonna talk us through it. How does this work?
Sure, absolutely.
He can talk through while you
all
play
right.
it.
Go ahead, run the video. So how it's set up here is we have the Gatling gun that's hooked up onto the Hornet that we're setting up for Dogfight V1. You can see the scale of the thing is just massive. So we got our test weapon mount here. So I'm getting into the chair right now, where you can actually just interact with it. It's gonna swivel out for you, and you can actually jump in. It's gonna pull you back in. And this whole thing is now like a whole firing range for you guys. So we just set this up so you can actually shoot at all these different targets. So a lot of these are all set up thanks to Forrest as well and Zane for these guys actually setting this target up real fast for us. So I got the Gatling gun, but also the best part about this whole thing is with the stuff that we have in the hangar, that whole holo table, you can actually swap out the guns. So here, check this out. So if you guys are all familiar with the holo table, you can actually pull in the weapon mount itself, and then go over to the weapons table over here. I'm going to pull over one of the other, actually the laser repeater, and I'll plug that in. And then you can see it's actually swapped the actual mount and the weapon itself on the mount. And that'll completely switch out the actual weapon that's available. And now you can actually shoot that one too. So it completely changes the effect, changes everything. So it's just demoing off exactly like what the weapons are going to be capable. And I was using this test platform actually to test out like the Hornet destructibility, and of course totally fixed up yet. But at least from here, you can actually test out all the different weapons that we're actually going to be pumping out for Dogfight. So thanks a lot, Zane. Thanks a lot, Forrest, for rapidly helping us out with this.
Cool. Well, that's so yeah. So we're gonna get you guys a weapon test platform. We may even do a thruster firing thing, and we may have a few more surprises for the firing range stuff that
Exactly.
we're thinking about, but we won't quite do that yet. So we'll let you. So basically, even if you're not getting Dogfight in the next few weeks, you can blow things up.
Exactly.
And it's kind of cool. So. So it's what?
Skype had stopped recording.
But we're good here, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
the
still
Skype's
fine.
fine. That's
Yeah.
fine. Okay, right.
Perfect.
So anyway, yeah. So I hope you like that. So I guess does should we want to take a couple of questions for Dan on the firing thing?
Sure,
Why not? If
go
we
ahead.
can.
Yeah, if anybody has questions
About the firing range, ask him in the chat room.
So of course, also with the firing range, like that was just a basic mock-up. What I wanted to do later on is like have it so that like different targets would pop up, and then you would actually have to aim and shoot at those different ones. So that was just a quick mock-up of what we currently had.
Question, will there be a
Railgun. Where the
Well, yeah, no, there will be a rail gun. I mean, that's actually one of the gun types that we have. I'm not sure there's going to be a rail gun in the next week or so. I mean, generally our big rail guns are all big cap ship stuff.
Yeah.
So you won't be able to mount that in your hangar, else you blow your hangar out.
All right.
I have a question. Wondering about using their
handheld weapons in the firing range.
That's also something.
We're not ready to show you that, but we're actually making really good progress on that stuff, and so we'll have a future update on that. But yeah, I mean we're that stuff's actually quite easy because you got a lot of that out of the box, and we're actually doing some really cool additional stuff for 0G and a bunch of other stuff. But that's a kind of future update. But that was when I was saying at the top of the live stream that because we've had such great funding, I've been able to go wider than I thought we would do sooner. So we're going to be able to be delivering stuff for people to play around and enjoy for the next year.
And weapons. Crossbow. Yes, crossbow. We're doing with crossbow. My stream is weak.
Um,
All right. Weapons testing. Will there be unlimited ammo for the ballistics weapons in the testing range? People are already worried about.
Having to pay for it.
no, we're not that. We're not that cruel. No, I think you would. I think you. Although another thing that we haven't talked about, but